Beautiful.
And as soon as I feel like it's clicked in, I'm going to start playing, which I will.
Beautiful.
Oh man. Woo, gosh. Wow. Smoking. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my guest, Gary Smulyan, baritone sax man.
Hey, everybody. Welcome.
Man, sounded great.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was March 6th, 2020. That was a gig that was organized by Frank Basili, who was the other baritonist on the bandstand. There was a project we were just getting started. That was Ehud Ashery on piano, David Wong on bass, and Mark Taylor on drums, and Frank Basili and myself. It was a band that we were getting started up called Boss Baritones. It was kind of organized by Frank. We're playing the music of Lockshaw Davis and Johnny Griffin on two baritones instead of two tenors. So that was a piece entitled Hey Lock. So that was March 6th, 2020, just when all this COVID craziness was just getting started.
Yeah.
I almost canceled, excuse me, canceled that weekend just because I wasn't sure what was happening and feeling a little nervous and antsy about going downstairs into a club like Smalls, which is tight quarters. But, Frank, he's my buddy. And, I wanted to play. And the place was packed. We played March 6th and 7th. And, of course, way before masks, way before anybody even knew what. Pardon me, that's a train going by. I live in Yonkers. I'm broadcasting from beautiful Yonkers, New York, and my condo is right above the train that goes to New York City and Amtrak. So you might hear some train.
God, that was wild.
Yeah, well, it gets less wild when you do it every day. So yeah, so that was kind of crazy. So we had people were still hugging and kissing and shaking hands and breathing on each other, and the place was really crowded, and I was feeling like, okay, I'm not really sure how this is going to go. So that was Friday and Saturday, March 6th and 7th. Then March 8th, I flew to Europe with Ralph Lalama, my section mate in the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra, old friend. And we had a European tour. So, a couple of weeks leading up to going to Europe, I was watching the CDC website and looking at the situation in Europe. And at that point, Italy was in real trouble. That was really the only country in the world where COVID was really out of control.
Yeah.
But, the places we were going, Switzerland and Germany and Austria, were all okay. No, we didn't have any cancellations. And at that point, the CDC was just saying, there's community spread, just be cool and just try and social distance and all that. So March 8th, that was a Sunday. We flew to Paris. The flight was about half full, and everyone was wiping down their seat with, all bleach and their seat backs and everything. People were really kind of starting to get serious at that point. March 9th, that was a Monday. We played at the Duke de Lombard in Paris. We started, like I said, this is just the start of a 2.5-week European tour. And not very many people showed up. It was not very well attended, which understandably at that point. Then Tuesday, all of us, we took a long car ride to Passau, Germany. And then Wednesday, March 8th, March 8th, March 11th, we played in a very nice theater in a modern art museum in Passau, Germany. Once again, not very well attended. So it's March 11th, and 2:00 in the morning, we're in the hotel, and Ralph Lalama comes downstairs and knocks on my door and says, Trump is closing the borders. No more flights from Europe on Friday. We have to get home. This is Wednesday at 2 in the morning. So of course, travel agents are closed. The computers are, all of the United Airlines and Lufthansa, everything is going haywire. Their websites are crashing. And so we start calling, and my wife and Ralph's wife, Nicole, were frantically trying to get us home. So finally they got us a flight from 3:30 in the afternoon that Thursday. And we actually got home from Munich and got one of the last flights out. This is Thursday, March 12th. So we've been in Europe for 3 days. And then we had to just hurry up and get home. And at that point, while we were in Europe, things started getting canceled and things started shutting down, and it started getting to, pretty deep at that point, or like mid-March, it got crazy. So we got home back to Newark, and, thousands of people in Newark Airport, all, people trying to get get home. And we thought, all right, we're gonna have to quarantine. Are we gonna get our temperatures checked? We had no idea what was expecting what we were, going to expect at the other end once we got home.
Yeah.
But as it turned out, it was just go, 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 go. They just rushed us through the airport. We just nothing. No questions, where you've been, how you feeling, no temperature checks, nothing. So we got home that night. This is Thursday, March 12th. And that night I get home, and after dinner, I spike a fever.
Wow.
So, and I had COVID.
Oh my God.
I came home with COVID. So, that was really kind of crazy. Don't know where we got it. And then 3 days later, Ralph caught COVID. So either we got it at Smalls, or we got it on the plane, or we got it in the club. We don't know where we got it. But, and so, so we both got tested, and it took me 12 days to get my results back, but I knew what I had.
Yeah.
And it was a month of just, feeling like very strange. It was not like anything I ever had before. It wasn't like the flu or anything. It was just, but luckily I was okay. I never felt like I was going to go down really hard. It was a fever for a week, and then 3 weeks of kind of just feeling miserable and up and down. And, but it took a month for it to finally pass.
Wow.
But and so like I said, no loss of breath, no loss of smell, no loss of taste.
And Ralph how was Ralph?
We had the same exact symptoms.
Huh.
Wow. And actually Ralph helped me a real lot, because he was practicing through it every day.
Oh.
To keep his lungs going, and he kept me going. We also, because really nobody knew what this was about in the beginning. So we talked numerous times a day, and he was practicing, and he got me to get my horn out, and so really kind of work on keep on breathing, keep the lungs going.
Yeah.
I started doing some breath yoga, doing just breathing exercises, practicing, just really not to let my lungs be compromised. But I think because I played the saxophone, or we both played the saxophone, I think that helped us a lot in terms of not going into any, kind of deep medical condition,
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure. Yeah. Wow. That's quite a story.
it was a crazy time. So,
Well, anything after that is kind of, light.
no,
Right?
it was, well, I mean, in retrospect, like, just because it's a horrible thing because of all the people that got really sick and died and
Yeah.
had lingering conditions, and are long-term COVID sufferers. And for the two of us, we really just got sick, and then it went away.
Yeah.
We don't have anything long-term lingering, at least I don't think. I don't know any lingering effects. But it was kind of tricky, because I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I quarantined in one of the rooms for 17 days. I didn't come out. And then I didn't even leave the apartment for 21 days, for 3 weeks, So I was super, super careful, because I wasn't sure how long you were contagious for, or at that point, we didn't really know anything about it. It was a brand new thing. Now, 16 months in, we have a little bit more perspective. We know a lot more, and the vaccines are helping. And so it's kind of a different world. But in the beginning, it was, especially New York was the epicenter in the States. They were in Queens and all the hospitals. I mean, it was really a scary place to be at that point.
Yeah.
But here we are.
It's just, it's like sci-fi or something. It's really
In a way,
weird.
it is.
Yeah, it's really been weird. Yeah. I keep thinking about, when we grow old and we're going to be looking back and going, boy, that was a fucked few years.
Yeah. Well, hopefully when we emerge from this, we're going to come back. I don't know what the new normal is going to be, or what, in terms of music, in terms of going out to play. Things seem to be opening up now. There seems to be, we're supposed to start up Monday nights at the Vanguard mid-September.
Cool.
From what I hear, they're redoing their air system down there, so they're going to have fresh air circulating and filtered, and and I know they're working hard down there to try and make things really safe for people, so they can do this in a way that's scientific and calculated and smart and and safe. So we'll have to see all about that. We're entering into a new world, and I think everybody's different in terms of their comfort level, how they feel coming out of it, how deep they want to get into it.
Yeah, I actually today, later, I'm going to the movies, and I'm going to go see the Summer of Soul, which I'm really looking forward to a lot. It's going to be really fun. Of course, me, like a lot of people, didn't know about Summer of Soul. And apparently it happened, I guess it happened at the same time that Woodstock happened.
Yeah, I saw it the other night on Hulu.
Oh, you did? Cool.
It's fabulous.
I'm really excited. That was definitely my wheelhouse, along with jazz. That was because I was in 72 to 75, I went to Berkeley. I was a flute player.
You were, really?
Yeah. And they didn't have vocal at the time. So, I went there for flute and arranging and comp. And, at that time, especially Boston, it was just packed with all kinds of great music, jazz and funk and Woodstock and Miles and just everything, ECM, everything was so happening at that point, And
Boston, there were a lot of places to play at that point, right? There were a lot of clubs happening. Boston was cooking then.
Yeah, it's really great. But
the movie is fantastic, and the backstory and the footage is incredible. I just makes you wonder how much more didn't make it to the screen. There's just
they said 50 hours, right? That they edited down.
Yeah, the first thing, I don't want to ruin it, but the first thing is Stevie Wonder playing a drum solo of all things, which is, it's incredible. Man, it's the whole thing is just, wow, it's just mind blowing. Yeah,
I saw my friend who's going with me sent me, I guess it was a news story like on Today or one of the news shows. So there was was it a 20-minute, 8-minute? I can't remember how long. It was short, shorter thing, and interviewed the producer, who is the drummer for
Love.
Yeah. For who's he the drummer on? He's
on Jimmy Kimmel, I think.
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, wow, what a cool guy, man.
Kimmel, I'm having a old man moment.
Me too. Well, I have definitely holes in my brain. Yeah,
I think he's in the Roots, I think.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm so excited.
And he's a great director. It's so well done.
Yeah.
The interviews of the people that were there, interspersed with the concert footage, and some of the performers, like from the Fifth Dimension, Marilyn McCoos, she watches their performance, now. Oh man, it's just very emotional.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's cool.
I
would definitely see it again.
Yeah,
I would.
I think it's really interesting right now. So I just finished finishing up mastering a record that the songs on it are from the 70s through the 90s. Not many songs, but some of my favorites. But I'm not the only singer who's doing that. A lot of singers are doing that right now. And then this movie's coming out. I just feel like there's some kind of connection that's going on back to that time. There's some kind of strength or emotion that's coming from that, that we have, that we need right now, or we have. It's really an interesting moment. You know.
Plus the music is just so great. All the bands at that time, with Sly Stone and
Oh,
the
Sly, man.
Haley Jackson and
Yeah.
the Davis Staples, and it was just wow.
And right? Abby Lincoln's in it with Max Roach,
Yeah,
right?
Max, yeah. So they had a gospel weekend, and there's great footage of Ray Barretto and Mongo Santa Maria, and there's a big band. There's a big band, like the house band, that backed up some of the acts. And I think I saw Joe Temperley in the band. He looked like Joe Temperley playing there. I stood up out of my chair. Wait a minute, that's Joe. And I think I saw Britt Woodman playing trombone. It was they went. There were a couple of scenes that they had the big band in there, and I was like, wow, that must have been an incredible hit play.
That's great. Hey, I wanted to ask you before I forget. So when I first came to LA, it was like over 40 years ago. I was in early 20s, and the baritone sax guy here, the main guy was Jack Nimitz.
Of course, one of the all-time greats.
And I was a waitress at Dante's, so I got to hear those guys, like a lot, and
he's super sax.
Super sax, yeah, and well, and he, he had his own gigs too, quartet gigs and stuff. But I think that might have been my dad was a sax player, but he played a tenor mostly, and I think that was maybe the first time I heard a Barry up close. It's like, whoa, wow. And I also remember, it might have been you. Did you play with the Mingus Big Band?
I did. Yeah.
It might have been you that I heard in New York at the IAJE.
Might have been. I don't know. I was the first baritone that's in that band. I was there for quite a few years, and then it kind of that chair got handed off to some other folks.
Yeah.
So, but it was wow. That was when that band first started. We played at the Fez, on Lafayette Street.
Yeah.
And that was the scene. That was a crazy, wild scene every week.
Oh.
It was really. I mean, it was a big. It was beyond. It was just a scene bigger than like a jazz scene. It was there, all kinds of folks hanging out. It was really wild.
Oh man.
But back to Jack. Yeah, Jack is super important. I mean, he's way up there in the lineage of baritone saxophone players. He was a friend, and he had the most amazing sound.
Yeah.
On the baritone, it was just he had so much presence, and he was just such a wonderful guy too. Just really warm, and just he was always really nice to me. I always, and I remember he's on Quincy Jones' first record as a leader, which is called "This Is How I Feel About Jazz" on Emma. Art Farmer and Phil Woods and Mingus is on that.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure Jack plays baritone on that, and that's if you don't know that record, that's a Desert Island disc.
I'm gonna check it out. This Is How I Feel About Jazz.
Yeah, Lucky Thompson. Man, it's just a great record, and Quincy Jones writes so beautifully on this. It's on MRC. This Is How I Feel About Jazz, and it's got beautiful Art Farmer solos and beautiful. I mean, just everybody plays so beautifully on this record. It's one of my favorite records.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna hear it. I'm gonna go listen. That's really nice. Thank you for that tip.
Yeah, it's great. And Jack plays baritone.
Yeah. Where are you from, Gary?
I'm from Long Island. I grew up originally in Levittown on the South Shore of Long Island. And then when I was 12, my family moved basically up the street to Wantagh, which is near Jones Beach.
Okay.
Nassau County. And so that's kind of like, Long Island in the 60s is kind of when I kind of grew up, it's kind of a good place to be.
Yeah.
I started playing alto saxophone when I was 8 in elementary schools. Somebody went around to all the classes trying to recruit people for the band. They're trying to get people to play. Someone came around and said, "Hey, does anybody want to play the clarinet?" And clarinet? Oh, I'll try that. And then I got there and they handed me an alto saxophone. It wasn't a clarinet, it was a saxophone. And it was fun. It was one of those things, and it was really kind of love at first sight. Really, when I saw it, I was like, "Wow, that looks so cool." And and just music, like just one of those things that I kind of had an affinity for, and it just felt good to play. And we had a very good music education program on Long Island. There were great music teachers, great band programs, and I always had really great teachers as a young musician growing up as a kid.
When did you start on Barry?
Oh, so that's a long story. I went through a long period of playing alto all through my teens, and just a little bit of the backstory. Growing up, I discovered jazz when I was 13. I was not really, I didn't know, we didn't play music in my family. We didn't have, my folks didn't really play a lot of music. They weren't musicians. My mom was a dancer. She actually had a dance studio in Farmingdale where she taught ballet, but not really, no music. So I was just listening to the radio one day, and I heard this piano playing that was like, who is that? What is that? It turned out to be African Ripples by Fats Waller.
Ah,
And it was part of a show that there was a disc jockey on WRVR. His name was Ed Beach, who had a show called Just Jazz. And his theme song was a piece by Wes Montgomery called So Do It. And every time that theme song would come out, I'd be like, okay, it's time to listen to Ed Beach, and it would it's Ed Beach. And he would like a show called Just Jazz, and he would focus on one musician and just highlight everything. So you do a couple of days of Kenny Dorham, then he'd do Al Cohn, then he went through the history of jazz, and that became my jazz education as a teenager.
Wow, cool.
I listened to that show every night when he was on. He was for me the greatest thing on the radio.
Wow.
He was my source for the music. So that through Fats Waller, hearing this music, which was an accident, I never would have, unless I was kind of at that time, at that moment, turning the dial on the radio. I don't know if I would have ever heard jazz. I have no idea. And so on Long Island, there were a lot of great musicians growing up at the time. And like Glenn Drews, a trumpet player who would join Woody Herman's band. And that's a story too. And then Billy Drews, his brother, who plays alto saxophone in the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra. Kenny Werner grew up on Long Island. Great pianist Gerard D'Angelo, Gary Dial, he grew up, he was in New Jersey. He was part of our scene. Jeff Hirschfield, great drummer, Steve Hoffman, Frank Wagner, Lee Hudson, who's playing all over in New York. So we had this incredible close group of, musicians our age, 15, 16 years old, totally wanting to play this music. So we became, we would play together, practice together, listen to records together. And there was a club on Long Island called Sonny's Place, which was a fantastic club. It was in Seaford on Long Island, in the next town over from Wantagh. And he had music 7 nights a week, all year round. I mean, it was a serious club, and everybody played there. I saw Chet Baker, Lee Konitz, Jimmy Nepper, Al Cohn, Clark Terry, Roy Haynes. I mean, the list goes, he had and really incredible. And, he had like local musicians during the week, but on the weekend, he had really seriously high level, the same people who would play in New York or anywhere else would play at this club. So, and that was our hangout spot. We would go there all the time. And eventually, we would start put our own bands together, and he would hire us. So we would start to play there. And that was, a lot of this was all right time, right place, growing up in the right situation, and just being lucky in a lot of ways to be around the music. And then there was another club I'm having such weird memory things right now.
Me too.
Roosevelt.
Okay.
Roosevelt, Long Island, which was, kind of the hood. It was, and there was a club called the Steer Inn. And that was like, a different kind of hang. So I would, the first time I went there, who was playing? Chris Woods, the alto saxophone player who would play with Clark Terry, great alto saxophone player. So I got to meet him. And so I started hanging out at this club. And the first time I walked in, I was 16. I had hair down to my back. I had ripped jeans. I looked like, a flannel shirt. And I walk into this black club, and, this white kid with a saxophone case. And I was like, who is he?
Who
Walking
is
in.
that?
And I had my horn and I sat in. And then it was like, wow, they saw I wasn't there to be a troublemaker. I was there to learn how to play and to be
Yeah.
around the music. And that became another hang. That was a great club to steer
Wow.
in.
Wow.
It was such a beautiful club. It was, oh man, it was such a great scene. So, all these places on Long Island that were happening at the time were, we could go to these places, and a lot of times we could play, so that was kind of where we honed our skills,
So where along that way did you start on the Barry?
So we had a group called the Long Island Jazz Quintet with, like I said, my friend Glenn Drews, a trumpet player. So one day he got a telephone call to join Woody Herman's band. And so he left to go on the road. And this is 1979 or early 1980. And I was born in 56, so I was 22. And so I was finishing up my last year in college. I was a senior in college. It was May. And I was still playing alto saxophone. I had no desire, no dream, no fantasy, the baritone was so far off I never even thought about it. I didn't own a baritone. I was an die-hard alto saxophonist going in the direction of Phil Woods and Charlie Parker. In fact, I was such a Phil Woods clone. I bought a leather hat. I had a leather strap. We didn't have any videos. We had no videos or YouTube or there was no internet. This is just, back in the day. So all I could see were photographs. And
Yeah.
I would just kind of check out how he held the horn. I would hold my hands in that position, real copy, and copied every solo and put the mouthpiece on the same angle. It was real hero worship, he was my jazz alto saxophone god, and just I wanted to be like that. That was for me. So I was going the total alto saxophone direction. Never, the baritone was, I didn't even think about it. The only time I really listened to the baritone was, I would listen to Jerry Mulligan when he, to hear Lee Konitz play on some records, or I would listen to, Thad Jones and Mel Lewis and hear Pepper Adams play, but I was really with Jerome Richardson and Jerry Dodge, and I was kind of listening to them. Excuse me. So it's May of 1978. Excuse me. It's May of 78. And I'm 2 weeks away from graduating from college, and the phone rings, and it's Woody Herman.
Oh.
Asked me if I wanted to join the band on baritone, because Woody Herman has 4 brothers. It's 3 tenors and a baritone.
Oh.
Woody Herman was the only alto player in the band. So my friend Glenn, he gave them my name. And I guess, Bruce Johnstone was leaving. Bruce Johnstone is one of the giants of the baritone saxophone.
Yeah.
One of the all-time great baritone players. Just
Yeah.
And so I'm saying, why you call? I don't play baritone. I play alto. I don't even own a baritone. Well, we got your name from Glenn. 2 weeks. We're leaving in 2 weeks from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Do you want to join the band? We're on the road 50 weeks a year, and you get 2 weeks off. I'm like, well, I'm 2 weeks from graduating college. Both my parents are teachers. If I quit school with 2 weeks, they're going to be so pissed. They're really bugged at me. But yeah, I figured, okay, this is an opportunity that probably won't come up again if I don't take it. I can always go back to school and finish my bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to play. I'm saying, wow, this is a perfect opportunity to play, except I don't own a baritone. I don't own a mouthpiece. I don't own a reed. I don't own I don't know anything. But I said, yes. I said, I'll do it.
And baritone, does baritone have different fingerings than alto? And
No, it's an octave lower than the baritone.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All saxophones have the same fingering. It's just a different tonal range. So
yeah.
So
you'd read differently, right?
No. It's the same.
Oh, okay.
It's treble clef. It's the same. It just sounds an octave lower.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's an octave lower than the alto.
Yeah.
So, but an octave, that's a lot in terms of the sound.
Yeah.
It's a completely different animal.
Yeah.
In terms of the alto. So I went to the store. I bought a student model Yamaha, a bunch of reeds. I had a stock mouthpiece, and I had 2 weeks. I had to memorize the baritone part to Four Brothers and Early Autumn, because every gig started with the saxophone section out front in the band playing those two tunes from memory. So I had to memorize the baritone parts from and the whole arrangement, that was like kind of like, I don't know if it's an audition, but whatever, that's what you had to do. That was the gig. So I get up to Bridgeport, Connecticut, and take my baritone. I've had 2 weeks to kind of get some kind of concept of this instrument, which I never played. I had no idea what it was supposed to sound like, except just from listening to records occasionally, So I get my baritone out of the case, and I get my reed on, blow a few notes, and I sit down in my chair, and I look over to my right, and I introduce myself and said, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Gary. My name's Gary Smulyan. I'm just joining the band." He turns around, and the guy turns around and goes, "I am Joe Lovano." So he was getting started back then as well. It was Frank Tiberian, and of course, who's unbelievably great. And the other saxophone player was a tenor player from Florida named Billy Ross, who played great saxophone and flute as well. So that was the sax section. And man, I was a nervous wreck. I was convinced I was going to be fired every second of every gig, because one of Woody Herman's pet peeves was alto saxophone players who played baritone, which was me to a T. That was a little nerve wracking. I was convinced I was going to be fired every gig, but I worked really hard to get a kind of a concept, because I had good technique. I had chops. I could play the saxophone, but what I didn't have was a sense of what the baritone was supposed to sound like. I had no idea of a jazz baritone sound, so that's what I really delved into, the first 6 months on the band. It's all I did was listen to Cecil Payne and Nick Rignola and Harry Carney, and just to try and get some Leo Parker, Ronnie Cuber, just to get some semblance, an idea of what this instrument's supposed to sound like, because that's the one thing I didn't have at all. But Woody heard something he liked, and I stayed for 2 years, and that was it. I never played the alto again. I became a baritone player those 2 years, and discovered that this instrument was really my voice in music. So it was a total accident, the result of a phone call. So I've had two things like that in my life, where channel surfing on the radio and hearing Fats Waller, and that was my entrance into jazz, which I never expected. And then this phone call to play baritone with Woody Herman's band, which was something I was not even, looking for. It just came out of the blue. But those things were really life altering for me. Those were the two things I would say in my life musically that were had the most impact in terms of what they would lead to. Completely unexpected and out of the blue.
Yeah, it's so interesting on these conversations that I have with people, just to hear all your stories and their stories, because there's certain similarities of perspectives, of course, but the root in is so unique to the person. And there's a lot of, being in the right place at the right time. There's a lot of that. But like for you, those two significant experiences really changed and formed the whole rest of your life.
Yeah.
Really cool.
And I think about looking back, if I still played alto, I have no idea what my life would be like today. I have no idea. I do think about that sometimes, and what would happen if, I didn't switch to the baritone. So, but just that created so many beautiful musical opportunities just because of playing the baritone. It's been really quite an incredible journey so far, and I think a lot of it is because playing this instrument. Open up some doors.
Well, we have so much to get into, but I just do want to say that there's a few people listening who are commenting. There's probably more people listening, but there's Joyce Glasgow, who's a big jazz fan from Seattle, who knows you're playing, and my friend Roland Ascaroons, who made a comment that he wanted to see more light on your face, but then Frank Griffith, you know Frank?
Oh yeah, from England. I'm sorry about the light. I'm trying to find a place that's in my apartment that's kind of out of. I'm trying to be. Yeah, thank you. All right, I appreciate it. Is that better?
Well, there you go.
All right.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll move over. That's
Some front lighting would be good, but but that now your head it looks,
all right. Hold on. Let me try and do something. I'm going to move actually. I was trying not to hold my iPad. I'm very low tech.
Frank wants you to come to the UK again.
Oh yeah. Hold on. I'm going to do this. This is better. Hold on. Sorry. Tell Frank I'd love to.
Okay, Frank, there you go. You heard it here. Gary's ready to come to the UK.
After COVID.
After COVID. Yeah. Frank's doing a radio show, which
I know, I heard.
Yeah. I had him on here last year.
Yeah, he's great. How's that? Is that better?
Well, I think so.
Okay. I got my Star Wars.
Yeah, man.
My Star Wars light.
Well, that's a little close, but anyway, yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay, good. I first heard you at the Blue Whale out here.
That closed, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that club.
Wasn't that a cool club? I know.
We loved playing there. And then when that closed, that was we were all so broken up about that. That was just a great place to play.
I know. That guy, the guy June Lee, who was the
June.
He was my student. He's a great singer, and
Really?
yeah, and he has just great taste. And he called me up and he said, "Kath, I'm opening a club," and I was like, "What?" And he originally came to the States to study architecture. Sorry, and but then he fell in love with jazz and therefore had the club it was open for about 11 years.
Yeah, I played there a handful of times. It was just I played trio with Joe Lovano and Derek Holes, and played a gig with Minster on Halloween with Joe Lovano and Derek Holes. So that was a crazy gig because right before we were going to go on, the air was so dry in LA that I got a nose. It was Halloween.
Oh my God!
And I got a nosebleed in the bathroom, and I was like, I couldn't get it to stop.
Oh God!
I'm in the bandstand with Minster. I'm bleeding like my nose. It looked like a special effect. It looked like a crazy Halloween movie. It was like, oh man, it was really horrible.
Oh shit!
It was ridiculous. It was so funny afterwards. Why it's happening? Damn, I must look like something like from a horror movie or something.
I don't know which one I saw of those gigs, but I just remember I was in this front row because I always sit in the front row because I want to be part of the band. And, yeah, it was great. I remember that.
Oh my God. I was so sad I heard that they were closing. Not just me, but we all loved playing there.
Yeah.
Welcome back,
Whoops. Hello. I want to, I'm going to bring up a YouTube and I want to go here. Actually, maybe we can hear one of your new cuts, right? You have a new record?
Yeah, called Our Contrafacts, yes.
Yeah, tell us about that. Tell us about that.
Well, I've been kind of studying contrafacts and fascinated them since I was a young musician. For those who don't know what that is, a contrafact is a original melody written on on a set of pre-existing chord changes, usually a tune from the Great American Songbook or a standard like Hot House is Tad Dameron's tune on What Is This Thing Called Love.
Yeah.
Or like Olio's I Got Rhythm. I mean, there's a gazillion of these things, these type of tunes. But there's a lot of obscure ones that have been recorded once and never heard again. So there was just for a couple examples, like there's Deep People, which Jimmy Juffe wrote. That's on A Foggy Day. That's on another record.
Oh.
And oh my God. There's just, I mean, just so many. The Evidence by Thelonious Monk is Just You, Just Me. So the reason musicians started doing this, writing their own melodies, is you can't copyright a set of chord changes. You can only copyright a melody. So if you just like the changes of a tune, just write your own melody over the top and the tune becomes theirs. So they get to keep the copyright, the publishing, and all of that. So musicians kind of got slick. Instead of paying Irving Berlin Estate to record one of his tunes, they just take his melodies and his chords and write their own melody.
Yeah.
So I did about 3 of these contrafact records. And then the last one is called Our Contrafacts, where David Wong and Rodney Green and myself, we wrote our own. So these are our original contrafacts on these standards.
Okay. I mean, I hate to sound like, naive because I've been around for a long time, but I didn't know actually that word contrafacts. And I didn't know that people did that specifically. I mean, I know I've definitely heard songs that I know were written over existing chord changes, but
right.
I didn't actually realize it was a thing.
Oh, it's a thing because it was a way to get around paying the publishers of the. And so the musicians, they could keep the publishing because, like I said, you can copyright a melody, but you can't copyright a set of chords.
I've heard Bob Shepard has done that, and he's done it gloriously. And I've definitely heard a lot of things. Actually, Ricky Woodard has a really one of my favorite songs is over the chord changes to Just in Time.
Okay.
I was always listening and I was going, that's the chord changes to Just in Time.
That's right. I mean, this is like not a new phenomenon. This has been going on forever.
Yeah.
But
okay.
It is a word. It is a musical term.
All right. So I am here. So which...
Oh, what do we have? I can't see. Wow. Well, let's see. There is... All right, well, Drink Up is okay. Oh, no, let's do Home Buddy.
Okay.
See if anybody will play a little guessing game. What is this?
Well, it took me a minute, but I got it, and it's a very funny name for the for the
There
song.
was a couple plays on words. Yeah,
Yep.
we had fun doing this.
Okay, so for everybody, yes, Frank, you are correct. You'd be so nice to come home to.
Correct.
Yes.
Frank wins the Cadillac.
Dan Davila, yes, it is number 299. That's a kind of a distinctive number. Maybe, just as distinctive as 300. You're the 299th guest.
That's that's an astonishing achievement. Really, I'm serious, Cathy. That's to have, tomorrow's 300 interviews with the musicians is that's no small feat. It's a huge achievement, really. I take my imaginary hat off.
Thank you. So much fun. And there was archives, so I archive everything so people can just go and listen to anything. And yeah, it's just fascinating. At one point here, I've been working on a book, like trying to edit this book that I've been working on for 15 years. But after I finish that, because I don't want to start a different project, I want to go back and listen to each
interview
and take the aha kind of things and
Yeah.
put them in a book. And I'm sure it'll be a few books because, it's a lot of time and a lot of people.
And each one was 2 hours.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really something.
Yeah. And they're fun. They're like this. They're, it's a
loose.
really cool hang and, get to hear music and get to find even people, of course, that I know that I've worked with a lot. I don't sit around talking to them for 2 hours. I don't know a lot about them, so.
All through COVID, though, this has been a really great way to connect, to just be with people, it's, so I think also what you're doing is a great thing for the community is, helping us as musicians try and stay connected. This has been, I think, one of the biggest challenges through this pandemic is, how do we do that? How do we just not be alone in our houses and, miss all of our human contact through music and social activities and things. So what you're doing is cool on that level too, just keeping people together, just providing the opportunity to talk and chat and tell stories and just, hang out, which we've all missed that terribly for the last, year and a half.
Yeah. On the live things that have been happening, I noticed that people are a lot less inclined to talk for a second and then move on. they're actually just kind of hanging out with each other and having like a kind of a meaty conversation. And also I've noticed looking around when everybody's playing, people, musicians especially, just smiling. They're smiling, just watching and getting into the whole, the whole vibe. It's quite nice. Frank has a question. Ask Gary what he likes about playing in a trio setting without a chordal instrument.
Yeah, that's my favorite environment to play because of the fact that there's just the freedom involved, and I can kind of go anywhere I want and play anything I that comes into my head. And there's just and I especially like it with David Wong and of course Rodney Green, Kenny Washington, Billy Drummond, Carl Allen. Because they're just wide open, the musical situation, the openness of that, that's my dream setting in terms of playing, not that I don't like piano players or guitar players, of course I do, but I find that, it's just a different way of expressing oneself when one doesn't have harmony being fed to you all the time. It's like, I can be the piano player. I can really dictate the direction of the harmony that I want to go in, without any kind of conflicting sounds behind me.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah, so it's also
I have a lot of thinking about that, but yeah, go ahead.
What do you mean? What do you like in terms of what? What are you saying?
No, I mean, it just kind of brings up like what I like to sing with also.
Mhm.
And because I can relate. I mean, I like everything. I like playing with a band, a full-on band. I like, kind of driving, swinging stuff. But I know what I really like, and what I really like is a little more. I won't say sensitive, but like a little more. Well, I love guitar, like the kind of more modern type of guitar that has, sounds that they're, like Schofield or
You mean like
Bill.
you're using pedals? You mean like
Yeah,
using
yeah.
pedals and effects? Yeah.
Yeah, I like that kind of thing. I like a lot of space. And so when I get with players like that, that's when I feel I'm really, this is what I really like to do.
Yeah, I think as musicians, we all have that experience of what we feel like, coming home to, where it's a very natural way of expressing ourselves, what, an ideal setting or whatever that might be. And it's different for everybody, it's, and just like playing without any chord, playing pianoless trio for me is really like, for me, the ideal setting,
It's great. I've heard Shepard do that too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Well,
and
he's
it's
great.
a great. Yeah, that setting is amazing for him.
The thing is, though, it's a little bit of a hard sell because
Yeah.
Either club owners or festival producers think they don't, they want piano. They think it's a little too esoteric or too open, or especially with the baritone. That's a whole other thing. Just baritone, bass, and drums. That's a little bit of a tough sell. No, it is.
Whoops. I wanted to ask you something. Let's see. You had, oh yeah, and you worked with Marc Johnson too. So
yeah, Marc Johnson was the original bass player when I joined Woody Herman's band in 1978, and at that point he was getting ready to audition with Bill Evans, and he was working every day, shedding every day Bill Evans tunes, and playing along with Bill Evans records, and so eventually, he got the gig. He and Joe Lovano. That was turned into one of Bill's most important trios. It's that Marc was a natural extension of Scalafaro and Chuck Israels and all. Just Marc. He made his, he owned that bass chair. He sounded so beautiful. I heard that trio a lot at the Vanguard, when they were playing at the Vanguard, a couple times a year. I would go religiously and listen to every set. Marc sounded so beautiful. He sounded great with Woody too, but that was really emerged in that trio. That was just wow.
Yeah, gorgeous player. I recorded
Greatest.
with him and Peter Erskine and
Oh my God, yeah.
a pianist that I had been working with named Philip Strange, who lives in Japan. And I remember I wanted to do a duo, one song as a duo with Mark, and he said, "Oh, well," he said, "I'm not that great at that." You know, it's like, I think you're great at that. You know, it turned out to be really beautiful, and yeah, he's just a beautiful player, really.
Yeah, and he's also just just a beautiful person too.
Yeah, totally.
I could see him saying he's not great at that, but he's great at that.
Yeah, yeah, just gorgeous. And you were with the Mel Lewis orchestra, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were in Europe with Woody's band in '79, and so we were kind of following Thad and Mel around. We were playing on the same festival, so our Woody's band would open up for Thad and Mel. So we would just go. We were doing the festival circuit, just together. So we play a set, and then Thad and Mel's band would play a set, and so we were in Berlin, and that was our first night of first gig was playing together was in Berlin, and so that was the first night that I got to I played with Woody and got a chance to play a little bit, and met Dick Oates and John Mosca, and actually at that point Charles Davis was playing baritone, sounded great, and Jerry Dodgen, Jerry Dodgen was there. It's Dick Oates, and I think Kenny Garrett might have been there at the time playing second alto, and so that was the first time I met Mel Lewis, and like I said, all of these things that happened in just right time, right place. So meeting Mel Lewis in Berlin that night, getting to talk to him, getting to meet him, and he said, "Well, when you come back to New York, give us a call, and you can kind of start subbing." So
you did.
I left the band in 1980, and then at that time, Gary Prebeck was playing baritone. Excuse me, and so he would take some nights off, and I started subbing in the band, and from listening to all those records as a kid, I knew how the charts sounded. I mean, those charts were in my head, so that was a very natural fit for me to play that music, because it was I knew all of those arrangements already going in, because I had kind of done my homework, just not to sub, but just I just done my homework by just knowing that music in my head from listening to it over and over and over and over again. So I knew all of those arrangements, Willow Tree, Willow Weep for Me, Little Pixie, Fingers, Quietude, all those tunes. I grown up listening to all those records. Those were some of my favorite records when I was a kid. So I was kind of prepared going in. And eventually, so Gary Prebeck wanted to move over to the tenor chair. So that opened up. So he moved over to play tenor, and at that point is Gary Prebeck, and Lovano was playing tenor at that point, and then just Mel offered me the gig, sometime or later in 1980, and this is I've been in the band ever since. So do the math, 80 to 2021. It's a long time.
40 years.
40 years, yeah. So I'm waiting for my Timex watch to.
Holy moly! Wow.
Yeah.
Gary, have you ever arranged?
I haven't written for that band. No, I wouldn't. I don't have the nerve.
Yeah.
Not with Bob Brookmeyer and Jim McNeely and no.
Yeah.
No, I never. That was a world I never really dove into, unfortunately, for myself. I wish I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Can I'm not sure exactly this question, but I just kind of want to know if you personally feel that the Barry has a particular gift or job. I mean, job, we kind of know what job the Barry has, it's the bottom of the range,
We play roots.
But a little bit more personal, like what do you feel the Barry can offer as an instrument, as a
I don't know. I don't think about it that way. I think I play the baritone because I resonate to the sound of it. I don't, and then there's no other reason I play it. It feels like my voice and it's natural as a musician.
Yeah.
But, given that, the baritone, if you really look at the history of the instrument as opposed to the tenor and opposed to the alto, is, Jerry Mulligan is really the only superstar to ever really play the instrument in terms of critical, serious critical acclaim and being able to tour with his own band.
Yeah.
Pepper Adams never really toured with his own band. He would always like a lot of musicians just pick up rhythm sections, go on the road and play with local rhythm sections. He kind of did that for his whole career. I don't think Pepper had the luxury of traveling with a group of handpicked musicians like Mulligan did, so I think it doesn't have the commercial attractiveness that the tenor and the alto necessarily have. Just if you look at all the tenor saxophone players who have become really well known and critically acclaimed, talked about, and alto saxophone as well, it's really the baritone is not, there's been a lot of, great musicians playing the baritone, but in terms of, looked upon as kind of an anomaly, or just it's kind of quirky. I don't know how to describe it, but it's we don't see a lot of baritone players leading bands anywhere. There's not a lot of band leaders headlining at clubs or festivals or things like that. So we play it because it's our sound and it's what represents it's our musical voice, it's our musical personality, it's how we can express ourselves in the most meaningful way as musicians. So I once I started playing the baritone, I became a baritone player after Woody's band. That was kind of it for me. I just I kind of don't have a choice. It's kind of what I play, and I don't think about all the other stuff that goes with that.
Yeah. It's interesting that Mulligan and Adams were kind of the highlight guys, and that's it.
No, it's Harry Carney. There's a lot of musicians who played the baritone. You're talking about maybe modern,
but you're talking about like in a big way. I'm talking
about critical success, like on line with Stan Getz or Coltrane or Sonny Rollins or Charlie Parker or someone like that.
Those guys were it.
Yeah. So it was just more available. And like I said, I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it just, Jerry Mulligan was a genius. He was one of the greatest musicians of all time. And just his ability to write and, as an arranger and a composer. And the thing is, he just had a very identifiable sound. And that's someone who anybody plays any instrument, you can tell who they are after one or two notes. That's what we're all striving for, to have an identity as a musician. And Jerry certainly had like a very seriously strong identity from the beginning. But it's this, certainly the baritone world is not populated as much as the other saxophones, but through successive generations, there's always people who've been attracted to this instrument. And I'm finding more and more young people in college campuses really enjoying playing it. This is there's a resurgence of interest in young musicians as their choice of instrument. It's very cool to see.
Cool. I had a friend who was from Canada, and he was in a saxophone group, but with the hugest saxophone I've ever imagined in my life. I don't know the name of that, but huge. You probably know. What is that called?
Could be a contrabass.
Yeah, maybe a contrabass sax. Anyway, the group was, it's so interesting, it was just wild. And to hear that, it's a really particular sound to hear a saxophone group. And it's
beautiful.
Great. Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, you the 29th Street Saxophone Quartet, the World Saxophone Quartet. It's not unusual.
Yeah.
There have been a handful of and really great, super ultra creative bands. It's more common in classical music.
Yeah.
Saxophone quartet than in jazz, but there have been, a few of those through the years.
Yeah. What do you think of the younger musicians coming up? Do you think they're burning, and they'll be developing something unique?
I mean, I think that as long as the music is evolving, there's going to be young people attracted to it. It's just it's just a different reality in terms of what young people have now than what we had. Like when me coming up, we had no computers, we had no fake books, we had no, we didn't have a lot of this just wealth of just material, unlimited. You want to answer it to any question, you look at your phone and it's immediate. You get anything you want. You order a book on Amazon and a drone drops it in your driveway in 15 minutes. It's like it's a different kind of world like that. So, I try to get my students to slow down. Not to expect to do this fast.
Yeah,
I want them to understand that it's totally about the process and not about the arrival. We never arrive anywhere as musicians, and young people want answers to everything fast. They want to learn how to play fast. They just want the answers, and it's not about the answers, it's about the question in music, 100%. So, when I was growing up, I'm sure you were the same way. I'd have $10 in my pocket and spend all day in the record store and agonize what to buy, just what record I have enough money to buy one record. So how do I get Jackie McLean, or what do I get? Sonny Stitt? Do I get this? Who's this guy? Frank Stroger? Who's Sonny Red? Oh yes, Sonny Red with Kenny Dorham. What? Oh man, I can only buy one record. It's agonizing. It was agonizing, to try and figure out what record to buy. And then you get the record, you listen to it 30 times in a row, just over and over and over, because it became, that was our source material. So, in terms of young musicians, I encourage them to try and have that kind of approach, to take less material and get deeper into it, But I think as long as this music is going on, there's going to be young musicians committed to this in a deep way, And of course, like everything, everything evolves over time. I mean, young musicians have their influences, and they put their stamp on it, and they kind of go in their direction as well, So, but I don't know. I hear a lot of young saxophone players. I teach at Purchase College in New York, and we have a conservatory there, and there's some incredibly burning young musicians coming out of that program.
Yeah.
Into the real thing. Into learning tunes and learning about harmony and playing the blues, and really kind of having a real baseline in terms of what the music is. And then once you do that, you can kind of go anywhere. You have the equipment to go anywhere you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is just getting together and playing, so that you're not like performing, but you're playing. Actually, that's one of the complaints I have. Complaints, I don't know if that's the right word, but there's a lot of semi-pro and amateur singers here in LA that over the last 10 years, what they do is they'll take some workshops, but then what they'll do is they'll hire an arranger to arrange a show. And the arranger's great, and the band, of course, is great. It's all great LA players. And then they rehearse their ass off, the singers, and then they do the show. Then it turns out great. They do a great job, but then there's this fall, there's this like, well, what do I do now? There's a loss, because they're not in the process. They're just going for this one end product, which is great. They did it, and the experience is good, and the result is good, but there's so much more, and a lot of times, especially older people, they don't know how to stimulate getting together with some musicians just to, go over stuff and have fun and develop stuff, Yeah,
it's a slow burn where it's not a rush to the finish line.
Yeah.
It's a real, very organic, slow, ascent to just, and at the end of the day, we don't really get anywhere anyway. It's just like Dizzy Gillespie said, I'm paraphrasing, but I love it. He says, well, I get up every day and play the trumpet. And some days I win, and some days the trumpet wins. And I do that every day for my whole life. And then I die and the trumpet wins, which is really like the most beautiful description for being a musician, because it's what it is. You get up every day and you play, and sometimes it feels good and sometimes it doesn't feel good. But, you know, if you're lucky, you get up and, you know, you get up the next day and you have another shot at it and do it again. And you do that over and over and over again. And then you die and it's over. So, you know, it's not about arriving anywhere. We never, you know, and that's a really humbling way to think about it, because then it's like your ego's out of the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You become like kind of unattached to the process. You just get up, do the work, and then do it again, and then do it again, and do it again, and do it again. It's like, and you know, if you really look at it that way, you're going to get better, because you're in it every day. You know, it's I try to, you know, encourage, you know, my students not to watch themselves too closely. Don't be so hypercritical. Don't be so tough on yourself, you know, because you're not going to get better every day. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You don't get, you know, it takes months and months and months for everything that you're studying to be absorbed on a cellular level, you know, that you get it. You know, it's, if you try and watch yourself get better all the time, it's very frustrating, because it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it sure doesn't, man. Wow. So, yeah, the things I've noticed over the years, the improvements have shocked me. You know, it's like I didn't really work on that, but it's coming out. And why? Because of what I'm drawn to, what I listen to over and over again, you know.
And I think a lot of this happens on a subconscious level. You know, you practice and then you wake up the next day and all of a sudden everything that you've been working on is already, it's accessible. It's there.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why. You don't know why.
Yeah.
But if you're so worried about, you know, being able to manifest all of these things you're working on right away, they don't come. It doesn't work like that. You know, so it's a very interesting process. And, you know, and I mean, that's the coolest thing about being a musician for me, is that there's no end.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you get your degree and you're done.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's just an endless process of discovery, you know, and evolving and being open and, you know, being receptive to the universe and letting things come in. And, you know, it's like just the process of it is just so beautiful. It's just to be in that world is really something.
It's beautiful to hear you talk like that. Yeah, you know, because which is a reason why I like doing this show, because people listening can get inspiration from a slightly different perspective. You know, they may know what you're talking about, but just, they need a reminder of it. You know, it's like, oh yeah, right. Because, and just listening to you, I mean, I do music every day. I do lots of different things involving music every day, but just to hear you say that again, it kind of inspires me. Again, it's like, okay, what can I do today? You know, like, what can I go over, or what, you know, I try and practice every day, but that's, you know, voice technique, because I have to keep this instrument
going. Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's other stuff to practice. And so, yeah, it's just, I mean, I always felt like music, especially jazz, was religion, because it's something you practice that brings you closer to God, you know, all the time. I mean, the magical moments that you experience, to me, that's the connection to God, you know?
Yeah, that's true. It's a profound experience, especially when you're, you know, and the times where you really feel like you're lost in the music and you disappear. You know,
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often, but it does. You know, when it does happen, it's like, wow, that was a deep moment.
Yeah.
And then there's the flip side of that, when you play and you're like, God, that was terrible. I mean, that was just god awful. I mean, that was awful. That was, you know, and you just feel just beat up and you just feel horrible when you go home from the gig. You know, it happens. I mean, it happens more often than. But then you let it go and you give it, and tomorrow's another day. You know, you don't let that kind of stay inside of you. Otherwise, it's really, I don't know. For me, the COVID really knocked me for a loop in terms of not having COVID personally, but you know, that just the losing all the work, losing all my connection to musicians and being home. I had a really tough time practicing and staying in the music. I found it really hard. And so other people really dealt with this in a much better way. You know, they stayed in the game, they practiced, they wrote, they did things. But COVID, I just said, oh man, this has been a really tough year and a half for me personally. Because, you know, my horn's in the case. I look at it and I'm like, man, I don't know. And I go weeks, you know, even more sometimes not playing. You know, I just feel like, you know, I mean, I just miss playing with people. I take my horn out of the case and I'm thinking, well, what's the point? Why am I doing this? I have nowhere to play. I have nowhere to go. I have no gigs. I have no, you know, it's like, it's really, this has been for me personally. And I think, you know, there's a lot of musicians who felt this, just like, man, this has been, you know, the floor came out from under our feet, and, you know, it's hard to stay relevant, and it's hard to stay present in the music and stay inspired when, you know, at the end of the day, I, you know, take my horn out of the case and I play. It's like, okay, well, now what? You know, it's like, I know you have to, I mean, we all have to play to stay in shape, just physically stay in shape, you know, just scales, arpeggio. We need to still keep the mechanics going, just so when we do get a gig, you know, we don't fold the first couple of minutes. And, you know, it's just, it takes a lot. But even that, doing that every day has been really, oh man, I felt like I was lost.
I thought a lot, most everybody I spoke to, including myself, at least for the first about 8 months, just walked by the music room. You know, they didn't pick up their instrument. They felt lost, you know. Yeah. And slowly people started kind of going, you know, come on, I got to get, you know. And like for me, my voice had been out of shape because I have a chronic cough. So I had this, I didn't realize that I hadn't really been breathing well. And a few years back, I just was thinking, I don't know if I want to continue singing, because I wasn't enjoying the manifestation of the voice, you know, and the singing. So then I found a teacher and I started getting back into it. But like you say, if I don't practice every day, or at the most every other day or whatever, for me, it's really, I have to do a little every day. If I don't do that, I can get up and sing one song and then maybe two songs. But then I slowly start to fall apart and I can't really accomplish what I really want to do. And it, you know, trips my head out, and, you know, I try and be, you know, I mean, I think as you get older and you have a lot more experience in your life, you, like you said, you know, you might be crappy on a particular gig, but you're kind of watching yourself a slightly removed. And then when you go home, you know, it's like, okay, well, then there's the next day.
Yeah.
So, but it really has been an interesting time for that, you know.
I actually played, like about 2 weeks ago, I played for the first time in, well, I mean, maybe I did a handful of gigs through this whole thing.
Yeah.
One of my ex-students, great alto player, studies with Charles McPherson. His name is Nick Green. He went to Purchase. His father owns a great little fish restaurant in Red Hook in Brooklyn, and so he next door they opened this little club called the Flying Lobster. You know, so they've been having music Thursday to Sunday at this, and so. You know, and outside on the sidewalks, just basically play on the sidewalk. People are walking by, and there's all these tables and plexiglass booths. And I mean, now people are starting to like really emerge. It starts, you know, New York feels like it's, so, you know, even though it's a little scary with this variant, we don't really know what's going on. But the vaccination rate in New York is really good, and we're stuck. You know, so I played a gig with Kenny Washington and David Warren. We played trio on the street. And we played 2 sets, and by the end of the second set, I was done. My chops were gone. I was having a tough time. Oh. So I was like, okay, this is real now. You know, it felt real. It was so nice to just see people out, you know, are just enjoying themselves, eating and drinking, walking by with their kids, and I mean, it felt like a really alive scene. You know, it's like almost very surreal kind of thing. Like, oh, there's people around, and then but I don't have a mask on. It's like, but it's cool. You're vaccinated. It's gonna be okay. It's like I just, it's just a little bit of a freak out to see all those people walking around like that. Like so, but it was. At the end of the day, it felt great. But that got me thinking. It's like, okay, I have to start practicing again. So I'm going to start playing 2 sets trio, which is, very physical because there's no piano solos or guitar solo. Basically, you're playing all the time except for the bass and the drums. So very physical experience playing trio. And so I was out of shape. And by the end of the night, I had 2 rubber bands for lips.
Isn't that wild? Yeah, actually, wild. You know what has been happening to me. I have to admit. So I have been pretty busy bee, person over the years, and my first jam session I had for 16 years every week. The first 7 years were the best years. They were just slamming instrumentalists, vocalists, everybody. It just was like a party all the time, but I've been doing stuff like that forever, creating workshops and gigs and blah, blah, blah. So I have this gig like two times a month now. And the owner has a PA system, so I don't have to schlep the PA system. Basically, I'm bringing, little things, and running the jam session. Every night I play, I go home, I am frigging exhausted. It's like, I say to my husband, what the hell? What is going on? Why am I'm not that old, It's like I am exhausted, and it's just, I guess it's just all the energy that normally we would do all the time, Like you might be on the road right now or, planning the next gig or,
I was on the road nonstop my whole life, and then all of a sudden stopped. Wow. And it's like, it's extremely disorienting. I was on and off planes, going to Europe, going, just, home, pack my suitcase, home for 3 days, leave, go out again, I was extremely busy. And and last year 2020 was a really extremely busy year for me. So all of a sudden it's like, put the brakes on it. And then you also lose your chops for traveling, getting to the airport, all that kind of stuff, kind of doing all that stuff that you just did just by doing it because you were doing it all the time. Now with this big break, I was reading an article in the New York Times that people are starting to travel again, but they don't know, they forget how to pack. So people are getting to the airport, oh, my passport. They're forgetting they're forgetting everything because they haven't gone on a plane in a year and a half. So they're really figuring out, people are forgetting their passports like crazy. They're forgetting their shampoo, their toothbrush.
Wow, I'm not alone.
No, you're definitely not alone. And just the logistics of moving around again. I think we're all out of shape with that. It's like I mean, not that I'm not super anxious to fly anyway at the moment, but got to double check and triple check everything. Well, actually, I did that anyway, but now you got to check 100 times to make sure you have your passport or whatever. People are just you lose your traveling chops.
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
I keep glancing over a little bit at your bio that I posted, and it mentions Sir Shaloff. And when I was at Berkeley, Madame Shaloff was still teaching his mom, and I learned about him, and
Kenny Werner was one of her prize students.
I remember this.
She had many, of course.
Yeah, one of my friends, whose name I will remember in a moment, he told me that he went to her, and for like 2 months, she had him playing one note, and finally he just couldn't take it anymore. And I think he moved on from there. But she wanted that connection, whatever she wanted, it was
right.
She was a tough cookie, and she was not your usual teacher,
Yeah. I mean, that's an old school way of teaching.
Yeah.
Just
if you had to.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, if you had to I don't know if this is kind of a weird question or if there's even an answer, but if you had to pick a kind of a certain period or a certain style of music that changed changed our forward motion, into the world.
Talking about personally?
Well, for you particularly.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
like
mean, 'cause I can only speak for me. I can't,
yeah,
this is
yeah,
a different experience for everybody.
yeah. I mean, who would you say was the people who really shifted your? I mean, obviously, Fats Waller for you.
Well, Fats Waller was the entry, and then I would get I got every Fats Waller record. Then, then through him, Jelly Roll Morton, and then Louis Armstrong, Hot Five, Hot Sevens, and then Duke Ellington and Count. I mean, it's just Jimmy Lunsford. I mean, it's just, it's just down the rabbit hole we go, it's, but I mean, in terms of the things that really were, when I heard Charlie Parker for the first time, that was a whoa moment.
Yeah,
And then playing the baritone, hearing Pepper Adams, I mean, really in a deep way,
yeah,
that was life altering for me. So I would say my playing is really a distillation, really, of those two influences of Charlie Parker and Pepper Adams. I think the combination of those two musicians have kind of influenced my approach and my sound and my concept. So I mean, if I had to just whittle it down to that, I mean, it's, of course, everybody's influenced by everything they hear and everyone they hear. And, if you really listen in a deep, dedicated kind of way, I'm influenced by a lot of people, trumpet players, non-saxophone players as well, and a lot of non-jazz music as well. So, but in terms of my particular concept and my sound and the way I like to play, I would have to say Charlie Parker and Pepper Adams were it for me.
yeah.
I mean, that changed my course, changed my way of playing.
Yeah. Oh, your wife, I see. Your wife is a conductor.
Well, yeah, that's my old bio on my website, right?
I believe so.
Okay. I'm guilty of not updating my website. But
Okay, you heard it here first.
I know, this is where administrative work is not my strong point. So no, that has to be rewritten. But yes, at one point she was a choral director. She's a musician and pianist, and but now has kind of had a life change of career. She's now working in the disability world of at CUNY Hunter. She's kind of had a move in a different direction, largely because of, we have a daughter who has a very slight intellectual disability, but we don't need to go into that, but she's great. And so that prompted her to go into this world to keep, now she keeps people with disabilities from being put under guardianship, so she's basically working for civil rights for people who have disabilities. So she's for a couple of years. It's very cool work. But she is a pianist and she is a choral director at one point in her life as well.
Wow,
so
interesting.
I have to change my website, but that's not wrong. It's just not current.
It's just a little late.
Yeah, late, but I've been accused of that too as well. So, but there's a school. Actually, we both taught. There's a school in Western Mass, in Western Massachusetts near Amherst. Oh my God, called Berkshire Hills Music Academy, which is a music school for young people with disabilities who have a gift for music. So we both taught there, which was a very cool school.
Interesting. That must have been really interesting.
Yeah, it was, and a lot of them had a disability. It's called Williams syndrome, it's basically a disability, but intellectual disability. It's a genetic anomaly, but the music part of the brain is turned on. So there's a lot of people with Williams syndrome have an incredible gift for music. I mean, the otherworldly gift for music.
Wow.
Being able to, play anything in 12 keys and hear something once and play it perfectly. And it's a very interesting thing to observe and really incredible people to be around. So we both taught at
Fascinating.
this really great school in Western Mass.
Now, these people you're speaking of, do they play together, like in orchestra groups, or?
Yeah. They have there's what's called a performance troupe at this school, where it's kind of the top level students at the school. They have a band and they rehearse every day, and they go out on the road. They go play.
Oh.
They go do play at high schools, and they do these different programs. And
Cool.
there's probably some videos of them on YouTube at Berkshire Hills Music Academy Performance Troupe. If you want to check them out.
Yeah.
They don't read music, but you play a record for them of something, and then they play it perfectly back after hearing it once. It's like
Wow.
it's kind of really interesting to be around.
Wow. I'm actually gonna look for that because it sounds very interesting. Yeah, I have two friends, professional musicians who have a few children, and one is I don't know what the term for what she has, or it's some kind of disabled. But they've always treated her absolutely just like a regular person.
One of the kids.
She's very smart. She's very successful in life, actually. Really quite. It's nice, when you're a person who doesn't necessarily see that all the time. It's really great. Berkshire Hills Music.
Berkshire Hills Music, BHMA, Berkshire Hills Music Academy.
Okay, so
this is back in the day. This is quite a few years ago that we.
Yeah.
But there is a performance troupe, and there is, they do out and go do disability awareness concerts, and they talk about themselves, they tell their story, and it's incredible. And this is just this young woman, Tori Ackley. She's amazing. She writes her own music, and I mean, she's very cool.
Wonderful.
So I don't know. I guess it depends on the year.
If we just heard a little bit of this, these were both 5 years ago.
Yeah, I wasn't there 5 years ago, so I don't know. But there is one pianist there that's just incredible, man. It's like he's I think he's blind, but he's like one of these guys who plays everything in 12 key, like just effortless. Just oh my God, I wanted to do a duo record with him because it would be great.
I'll just want to hear a little bit.
Slow. This is really interesting. We went and we made a little bit of a little left turn here in terms of what we were talking about. So this is John Libera. He plays alto and clarinet. This is Tori Ackley. This is Tom Slowick, who was my co-coach in this band. He's still there, and I can't see who's playing. I can't see the other folks, but so we had the performance troupe at this school, and we rehearsed every day for hours. And we would put everybody in a van, and we just drive all over the place, go to Boston and play gigs. I was a van drive. I drove these guys around, and we just, I coached these guys for years. This was kind of like when we moved up to Massachusetts from New York so our daughter could finish high school in Massachusetts, because it was a better situation for her to get out of New York, out of Westchester County, so.
Yeah.
So she finished high school up there, and we kind of got affiliated with this school, and my wife and I both wound up. So she was doing the chorus and teaching piano lessons, and I was kind of conducting this band all day. This is what we did for years while we were living in Amherst.
Well, let's hear a little bit of this, can we?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no
idea. And I have been part of the Berkshire Hills family for almost 16 years house, and the academy, because of my it is good.
Are they
really are, and I'm grateful to. A few years ago, I sang the National House of Blues.
Oh, no.
Never ever.
I guess.
I think people can just look at this on their own. They can, if they're interested, just look up Berkshire Hills Music Academy, and it's just the school is still still going on.
Yeah,
and it's an awesome place.
Okay, people can listen to that on their own.
Yeah, they can.
I was
we just listened to that.
I was actually gonna play a little bit of something else. I think I watched this one, The Sophisticated Lady.
I don't know where that was from. This was my first. This was my July '79. So I've been playing the baritone for a little more than a year. That was at the Nice Festival, I think, and that was.
Oh, that was you? Oh my goodness!
That's me. That was me and Woody's band after just playing the baritone for a year.
Well, we could listen to that, or we could listen to
Yeah.
Sophisticated Lady. How about that?
I don't know.
How about
I'm
this?
very bad. I'm very bad at listening. I never listen to myself.
What about Sophisticated Lady?
I don't know. I don't remember what that is or where that's from. Honestly.
Well, it was a year ago, and it's been listened to 3,000 times, so it's probably pretty good.
I'm not one of them.
Happy New Year. It's really
I don't know where this
fantastic to be here
is.
with this fantastic band. It was, wow, such great
Might
playing.
be
How much
Germany,
fun
I
does it
think.
Play after that.
Uh,
They say don't follow a dog act, a child act, and now I'm going to add trombone player to that list as well. So,
That's actually funny.
we're going to, since we're talking about being a sideman tonight, one of the most important
All right,
people to ever play this instrument.
Cathy,
baritone
go along with the
saxophone,
ride.
spent his entire career in one band. I'm talking about Harry Carney with the Duke Ellington Orchestra. He was born on April 1st, 1910, passed away on October 14th of 1974, and he spent more than 4 decades with Duke Ellington. So it's kind of an extraordinary achievement to have an entire career as a musician.
Wow.
With one employer.
you don't remember saying this, do you?
No, actually, that's really interesting thing. Harry Carney
put out as well.
he
So
played
Duke
with
Ellington also
had one
made it,
employer for his whole life.
possible for the baritone
That's
saxophone to
astonishing
emerge as a
achievement.
solo instrument as opposed to an instrument that's just in the saxophone section without a lot of solos to play. So he's opened up a lot of doors for us. And so we're going to play one of the most important pieces in the baritone saxophone literature for this instrument, and it's Duke Ellington's Sophisticated Lady.
Oh, I remember this. Right?
Gary Smulyan.
Oh, that's
Wow.
great.
Okay.
It sounded
This is
great.
Memory banks. Thank you.
Do you know where that was?
I think that was a concert on Long Island. Yes, I can now. It's all coming back.
Yeah.
I think it was a New Year's Eve concert in 2019.
Yeah. Great.
Oh, thank you. You're too kind.
Um, oh, I just realized that my edit on my said some wrong information. Today is not 6/9. It is
No, today is July 5th.
5, and you are my 299th guest. And
Wow.
you are not Tom Kubis.
Oh, Tom Kubis. Wow.
Baritone sax man.
So are all these interviews on your YouTube channel?
Yes,
Everything's archived there?
yes, and
Oh, man.
but also, if you really want to see like the whole mishmash, it's it's if you go to my website and to the event, then there's a link to Dropbox. I upload everything to Dropbox, so
Okay.
everything is on Dropbox. I think the YouTube, I'm missing like the earlier days, but yeah. Let's see.
What year did you start? When did you start doing this?
March.
March of 2020?
I hate to ask this, but was that when everything started, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not 300. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it's 300 days. Yeah, it's over. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something. You documented the whole COVID
Well,
experience.
What I did was it was 6 days a week for about 9 months, and then it went down to 3 days live. Now I do 7 days a week, but the other 4 days are archives. So yeah, so I do 3 days. That's why it's 300.
That's
But
astonishing.
it's really great, isn't it? Let's see. Joyce Glasgow said, well, Joyce, actually earlier, Gary told about, she asked if you had developed a certain appreciation for particular Barry players, but he already mentioned that earlier. And
Yeah, all of them.
mentors, yeah.
All of them I have appreciation for.
Yeah. And Frank is saying thank you for all of this whole interview, because it's been about 2 hours now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just getting started.
I know, we're just getting warmed up, man. I expect to see you out here sometime in the next year or two,
I
playing.
hope that'll happen because I work a lot with Mark Masters, who's out there. The arranger Mark Masters is one of the great arrangers on the scene. He's out in California, and we have a new record called Night Talk, which is the music of Alec Wilder.
Oh, really?
Oh, and it was a great band, Jerry Pinter and all guys from out there who were just the best. And and Mark wrote this incredibly beautiful music, and we're getting ready to do another project with we have well, I guess I can say we're doing he rearranged a record of ballads written by Johnny Richards, great Johnny Richards.
I don't know Johnny Richards.
Johnny Richards was an important arranger, composer. He wrote a lot for Stan Kenton, but he really incredibly important composer and arranger. He wrote beautiful songs. So we picked a bunch of Johnny Richards ballads with string quartet and rhythm sections. So we're hoping to do that, and we're hoping to record that, and get some gigs booked on the West Coast. So whenever it feels like okay to do so, we're going to try and bring that
Ooh,
out.
that
But we have,
sounds
in the
great.
meantime, it'll be fun. In the meantime, we have this
The
Alec
Alec
Wilder.
Wilder thing. And is that
Yeah.
out?
Yeah, it's out
What is it?
on
What is it
Capri
called?
Records. It's called Night Talk.
You know, the sounds around the house.
Mhm.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That Alec Wilder song is like kept one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Really
we found some obscure, ones that haven't been really recorded very much.
Yeah.
And Marc was, man, just beautiful. So we've been collaborating for many, many years on different projects, and so this is
Did you say
kind of the
Night
latest one we
Sounds?
did.
I'm sorry.
Say again?
What's the title? Night Sound?
Night Talk.
Night Talk.
The
Okay.
music of Alec Wilder on Capri Records.
Okay, good. I'm gonna go look for that. Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah, that came out last year as well. So
Yeah. Woo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alec Wilder was a really interesting writer. Not your standard form.
no, his tunes are they're very different in terms of the forms and the harmonies
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the direction. A lot of unexpected,
yeah.
moving around and just beautiful melodies. Just really fun just to play the melodies.
That song I spoke of the sounds around the house,
Yeah.
that's my kind of song. It's like what I call, a jewel type of song. Not too long, and the lyrics and the melody are so simple and connect into the heart. Like that's about this person, probably like a mother or father listening for, remembering the sounds around the house with their family growing up, and now like there's no more sounds. It's just like, oh God.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Yeah. And he wrote a lot of music like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Gary. Thanks for
Oh,
giving
Cathy,
me
thank you.
2 hours, and it's been really fun. Great conversation.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking to you too. Thank you for having me, and thank to all the people listening in. Appreciate you joining us, and I hope everybody things get better for everybody in this COVID craziness. And most important thing, of course, is stay healthy and don't get this thing. It's
Yeah.
do whatever you have to do to not get it.
Yeah.
So
And for people who are going to come back and listen again, the rest of this week is Mike Wooford on tomorrow, who has
oh man, great.
pianist for everybody in studio. I mean, he has an unbelievable career. Mike
Yeah,
Wooford.
incredible.
He actually lives in San Diego. And
Yeah.
then
Holly
Wednesday.
Hoffman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Wednesday, a great bass player who's played with a shitload of people is Jerry Watts.
Okay.
Yeah, he's played with Flora and Herbie Hancock and blah, 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 on and on.
Wow. Great.
And then the Thursday through Sunday, we'll have the archives, which includes the amazing Brazilian storyteller, singer, artist, Cathy Moraes. And then Friday, the guitarist and producer, Greg Perret. Saturday, probably a guy a drummer, historic drummer, Ralph Humphrey.
Wow. Great.
And Sunday, do you know Jennifer Lightham, the bass player?
I know the name.
She's a wonderful bass player. She's a transgender. She used to be John Lytham.
Okay.
And played with Doc Severinsen for a long time. And who else did she play with? Anyway, she's a fantastic bass player. So that's the rest of this week. So
wow,
anybody,
you have a lot of homework to do every day to prepare for these. It's a lot of preparation.
yeah. Well, the archives it's just mostly the PR going out, but the live people, it's just really fun. And if anybody wants to know who's coming in the future, just go to my website. I keep up on it pretty much. So thanks again.
Thank you, Cathy. I'm really also appreciative and thankful to be in such great company of all these other folks that you've talked to. I'm 299. I'm going to go play the lottery. 299.
I think you should.
And if I win, whatever I win, I'll split with you.
Cool. Great. I'm still putting in, for Publishers Clearinghouse. I'm going like, where is my $7,000 a week?
You deserve it.
I deserve it, man.
You deserve it. I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed every second.
Bye. Have a good evening.
You too.